I want you all to imagine this. You're working a full-time job at a company that runs off your back. It's worth millions of dollars because of the work you've done. You're clocking in 40 plus hours a week, but when it's time to be paid, your boss looks at you and says, being employed here is your payment. This is the current situation college athletes across the nation are facing. On top of being a full-time student, they are also faced with the task of being a full-time athlete. They bring in millions of dollars to the universities and are not being paid a dime. As college athletes, and some of us even being student athletes, we should take a look at this problem. I have always been very interested in college sports, but have not realized how much money they bring in into the universities. It wasn't until last year, when an FBI investigation was opened up on players illegally accepting money, that I realized that players are being taken advantage of. Today, we look at how big of a problem it is that the NCAA is robbing college athletes of money. Then I will attempt to persuade each of you to take action and help get college athletes the money they deserve and make sure everyone's getting their fair share. First, we must look at how much money athletes bring in into the universities annually. Student athletes are very valuable and are worth a lot more than people realize. The NCAA alone just brings in $1 billion every year, which the players don't get a single cent of. And the reason for not paying athletes in some ways is that they are being compensated by their free education. The average worth of an athlete's scholarship is around $25,000, which over the span of 4 years is worth around $100,000. A study at Drexel University estimates the fair market value of the average FBS football and basketball player to be $120,000 for the football player and $265,000 for the basketball player. Why should others benefit from their performance while they get nothing in return? According to Roger Sherman from SB Nation, the NCAA tournament will broadcast on CBS/Turner through 2032. The company signed an 8-year, $8.8 billion extension with the NCAA for the broadcast rights to March Madness. March Madness is a tournament the NCAA has every year that generates hundreds of millions of dollars. That's where most of the money NCAA generates comes from. The NCAA takes advantage of players and makes millions off of them. At one point, the NCAA used players in video games to gain money off. Some of those titles included 14 NCAA football games and 10 NCAA basketball games. And on top of that, the only reason they stopped producing those video games was because of a lawsuit that was filed by a former UCLA basketball player by the name of Ed O'Bannon against NCAA over whether the Division I men's basketball and football players should be compensated for their commercial use of their names, images, and likeness. After appeals, the final outcome was that even though the NCAA's amateurism rules are unlawful, and the fact that it lets colleges compensate student athletes with the cost of college attendance, NCAA frees itself from antitrust violations, and in March 2019, there was a slight change to that ruling. The U.S. District Court Judge Claudia Wilken ruled to allow each conference and its member schools to provide additional education-related benefits without the NCAA caps and prohibitions. Her ruling tethers to payment to an education, so instead of cash, student athletes will be paid to receive computers or scholarships for postgraduate degrees. In each trial, the NCAA has argued amateurism keeps it from becoming an anti-competitive trust. So that brings up the question of what exactly is amateurism. According to the NCAA, is that the student athletes can be paid since they are students and must be treated like every other student. To clarify that, Oliver Luck, the NCAA's former executive vice president of regulatory affairs, said in a speech in 2015, it would be a bad mistake to create campus employer and employee relationships with student athletes. Paying college athletes would distract in a very significant way from pursuing what they really need to pursue, an education. And we need to emphasize the value of that education. But let's think about that for a second. Are student athletes able to receive the full value of that education? According to Richard Sherman, a professional NFL player for the San Francisco 49ers, said that NCAA athletes don't get to take advantage of their education opportunity because of how hard it is to balance practicing and staying in shape for Division I sport and trying to go for a degree at the same time. In fact, the CBS Sports published a study on the topic with data from the Pac-12, the league Sherman competed in while at Stanford. The study surveyed 409 Pac-12 students and found 54% of athletes said they don't have enough time to study for tests. 80% of students said they have missed a class for a competition during the academic year. And overall, athletes spend 50 hours a week on athletics, while student athletes feel they have resources at their disposal to succeed. They succeed academically. They don't have the time to do so. Going back to how much money the NCAA made off those video games. According to Roger Groves from Forbes magazine, EA Sports, the company that designed the NCAA games, reported $3.8 billion in revenue, more than $1.3 billion in sales just within the United States. This is very similar to making a movie and not paying the actors. University of North Carolina, a powerhouse in college basketball, has admitted to over 18 years of academic fraud among its athletes, including fake classes that require no attendance in order to receive a passing grade and maintain eligibility. The NCAA assessed no punishment for fraud, saying it could not conclude that UNC violated the NCAA academic rules. Among its stated core values, the NCAA claims to commitment to academic excellence. According to Don Ravel from CNBC, players are not allowed to sell memorabilia, but the school is. 5 players from Ohio were suspended for selling their game jerseys, while Auburn sold Cam Newton's game pants for $1,500. To say the least, NCAA is a corrupt business, and they should be put to stop. If nobody decides to take action, NCAA will continue to get away with stealing from athletes. Now to help stop this ongoing problem, let's take a look at ideas how to stop this. 2 ways we can stop this is by limiting the amount of money the NCAA makes off players, and also by reducing coaches' salary so players can have a monthly stipend. Money should not be allowed to be made off a player if they are not able to receive any of it. The players are the ones working every day to make a name for themselves and gaining value. Allowing the NCAA to make money off of players' hard work is taking everything the player has worked for. The salary for coaches should be lower so players have a monthly stipend. The salary for coaches are way too high. The coaches play a big role in sports, but many of them should not be getting paid the amount they do so. According to USA Today, Texas A&M signed Jimbo Fisher to a 10-year, $75 million contract. This is a lot of money for someone who doesn't even play. Now that we know how to fix the issues the NCAA is causing, I'm going to show you how this will actually work. We will use a combination of allowing the money that is made off players to go to the players. We will also cut coaches' salaries by 10%. Money made off the players. If they're not allowed to have, if the players are not allowed to have money while they're in school, they should be allowed to have them upon graduation or upon entering the whatever draft they go into. Coaches' salaries are to be cut by 10%, along with multi-million-dollar contracts. Coaches are offered also comes bonuses. For many, this comes from winning championships. The bonuses can reach up to $1 million. In conclusion, I'm asking each of you to think about how much money is being taken away from athletes. Think of it as if it was you being taken advantage of. When you think about the money the NCAA makes from players, many of the players have families to support. Remember, the NCAA is a billion-dollar company. It doesn't pay their employees where their money comes from. By taking action in the examples I've discussed today, you can help stop fellow college students from being taken advantage of by a corrupt company. It is illegal and unethical to rob young adults from all the hard work they've done. As LeBron James once said, "I've always heard the narrative that they get a free education, but you guys aren't bringing me on campus to get a free education. You guys are bringing me on campus to help you get to a Final Four or to a national championship."